Hello everybody, I'd like to start this video by saying I'm really sorry that there hasn't been much gameplay on the channel recently. There are a lot of leaks going on at the moment, of course, and I really wanted to make this video as well today talking about the past and things regarding Homecoming and Artifact and where I stand on all that and some stuff. More so for myself maybe than other people, but I felt this video needed to be made. Anyway, with that being said, I'll try to get some more gameplay out in the future, of course, but probably this month, you know, before the expansion hits. There won't be as much of that, so apologies if you are, you know, really into the gameplay and whatnot, but that's just how it's going to be. Anyway, I just wanted to make this video because I've been seeing a few comments on Reddit, you know, not even necessarily recently, but I have seen them recently, in the past as well, you know, talking about myself, other content creators, the whole Artifact situation, whether they should be allowed back into the game and all this sort of stuff. And I want to talk a little bit more generally about content creators as a whole, but mostly I want to talk about myself and my own decisions and how I want to operate in the future regarding all this sort of stuff. So let's just get into that, shall we? So pretty much I've seen people saying stuff like, you know, not necessarily naming me personally, but saying things like, you know, this streamer abandoned the game, this streamer shit on the game before they left, they had a messy leaving, they tried to leave the game and it was messy, and things of that nature. So I kind of wanted to just address that and say, you know, while I can understand, you know, those criticisms, if you could call them criticisms, I want to kind of address them and say, this is why it's not true that, you know, that was the case, and give a little bit of background to my thought processes at the time of streaming a lot of Artifact. And yeah, I also want to clear up some stuff about the YouTube channel and whatnot. Anyway, so yeah, I get the frustration regarding content creators leaving the game. You know, that it's always very heartbreaking in many ways to see someone that you watch a lot, or that you don't watch a lot but is very, you know, influential in the community or whatever. It's very hard to see them leave a game, and it's even harder sometimes to see them come back. I can totally get that. Like, it's a weird feeling because you feel like they've in some way, you know, betrayed, you know, some kind of trust given to the community. You know, the community has given them, should I say, or that they've, you know, bitten the hand that feeds them, should we say. And yeah, I understand that sentiment. It makes sense to be a bit frustrated when people are coming back to Gwent or whatever. At the same time, you've got to understand that, you know, content creators, streamers are people. I'm not even talking about myself here, I'm talking about them as a whole, you know, people like Swim, Crokies, Ashlers, or whatever. They're people, they're not these, you know, perfect beings that will always do the right thing in your eyes. And they've got to make decisions that sometimes profit themselves, sometimes, you know, make sense to them. And not even talking about myself, but generally speaking, I think while it's the natural thing to do maybe to sort of criticize people for doing that and going and playing a different game and coming back, in reality, I think we can all maybe just chill with it a little bit, because everyone is just human and they're just trying to, you know, make the decisions in life that hopefully fit them best. Anyway, with that being said, I want to really explain my intentions of, you know, quote-unquote leaving Gwent. Basically, when Homecoming was released, Artifact was actually released at a very similar time, and I'd been playing both, you know, behind closed doors, I suppose. There was the Homecoming PTR, which I had played quite a bit of, and there was the Artifact beta as well, the closed beta for some people which I was playing a lot of as well. So at that point, you know, I'd been playing both, I had gained some impression of what both games were like, and at that point in time I was enjoying Artifact quite a bit. Homecoming felt kind of wrong in many ways, and a lot of that was just due to the large amount of change that came with the patch, rather than the problems that it had, but we'll get into that a bit more. And yeah, effectively, I did go and stream Artifact. I said on the YouTube channel even that I would go and be streaming more Artifact since it was a fresh game, since I'd been enjoying it, and since Gwent wasn't, you know, hadn't been fresh for a while, since I'd played a lot of it and whatnot. And yeah, really, I wanted to make a name for myself in that competitive scene in case it ever took off, in case I, decided to play tournaments for it and whatnot. And you see, I was already qualified for 2 upcoming Gwent tournaments, so in my mind at least, it seemed pretty obvious that I was never gonna just leave Gwent behind, the game that had, made me, as it were, and that there were more tournaments upcoming for me with, presumably, if you want to call them fans, fans of mine would be watching those tournaments and everything. So in my mind, it was always obvious that I wasn't leaving Gwent. I was just, you could say maybe taking a little break from it. I know that term is used a lot when streamers say they're gonna, do a life coach or whatever and take a break from a game and then not play it really ever again. But in my case, it was I wanted to stream more Artifact for a month, maybe 2, maybe 3, see how it goes, and then return to Gwent, make a nice return, play a lot, and prepare for the upcoming tournaments, and then just see where the future was going to take me from that point. But really, that's not how things worked out. Of course, Artifact failed quite miserably, which, I'm in hindsight, I can say I'm kind of sad about, but at the same time, I don't know that it's necessarily a bad thing in the long run for for me and other people. Anyway, so yeah, at that time I was streaming more Artifact, of course. I also made a couple of videos, I think preemptively, I guess, to Artifact's release. I suppose that was the timing of it. I made a couple of videos criticizing Homecoming and comparing Gwent to Artifact. There was one called Why I Hate Homecoming, and that was actually my most popular video ever. It gained 30,000 views, which is quite a lot for my standards, and really that video was just me. This is what people, when they refer to me shitting on Gwent, I assume it's this video and that Gwent versus Artifact video, where I compared the 2 games and gave a pretty negative impression of Gwent compared to Artifact. And basically, yeah, I assume that's what people are talking about when they say I shit on the game, and that's, fair enough, because I did really harshly critique Homecoming. I mean, it was very raw, and it was very emotionally driven, I think, more than rationally presented. So, yeah, I want to talk about that a little bit. Now, I was of the opinion that there were a lot of problems with Homecoming. I wasn't pretending that there were issues because I wanted to make a jump to Artifact or something like that. It was much the opposite. Yeah, Gwent wasn't doing it for me at the time. Artifact was. I gave some criticism for Gwent, of course, with the intention to still come back in the future after maybe a month or 2's break, streaming more Artifact than Gwent, maybe occasionally streaming Gwent as well. And yeah. Really, at that time, I was not too happy with Gwent's state. I was reasonably happy with Artifacts. But I do think I presented Artifact maybe too positively. Maybe I overhyped the game, or, didn't present its flaws in a large enough capacity. I think I did. I think I did in many ways. I said this game is very RNG heavy. I still would stand by the fact that it's a complex and deep game, and I was finding it fun, for periods of time, not fun for other periods, but that's another topic anyway. But yeah, basically, I think I was maybe a bit too critical of Gwent in an emotional sense, and now, looking back, reflecting on the past, a lot of the criticism that I had, things like Reveal is nonsense, Xavier is nonsense, Artifact binary nature of Artifacts is nonsense, hand limit, blah blah blah. Like, I made a lot of criticisms which, in retrospect, are not really relevant anymore. And I think the best way to sort of clean up this whole situation is just to simply remove the 2 videos I made, which were potentially overly negative about Homecoming, Why I Hate Homecoming and Gwent vs. Artifact videos. So I'm just going to get them off the YouTube. I think that's the best way to go. It feels wrong that I'm, so into Gwent right now and creating a lot of content for it, that people would see my most popular video being Why I Hate Homecoming, why I hate this game. It doesn't make much sense. So yeah, I wanted to get rid of those, and hopefully, you can take that as a sort of apology from me for being a little bit too, how should we say, emotional, and I guess, you know, hasty on my criticism of Gwent, and even, I guess, to some extent, my praise of Artifact. So, with that being said, yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with playing multiple games, and in hindsight, I still would do what I did in terms of streaming Artifact more, getting more into that game, and taking a little bit of a streaming break from Gwent. Of course, I did still make videos for Gwent, whether people realise that or not. I was still playing the game and making YouTube videos, even though I was maybe, you know, not streaming it as much. That's often a thing that's, you know, an issue. You can be playing other games, but it's not noticed if you're creating content for a different one. Anyway, that's besides the point, really. So I suppose I want to also just leave on this note, maybe. I want to make sure that in the future I am not as emotionally driven when I'm making critical videos of any game, really. I want to make sure that when I present my opinion, which, you know, that's what it is, when I'm giving critique of something, if I'm saying this is bad, this is good, it is just an opinion, and you guys can always disagree with it, that's fine, but I do in the future want to make sure that I'm being balanced in the way that I present, you know, my arguments. I don't want it to seem like it's just the truth, what I'm saying, or that there aren't counter-arguments or other opinions that people can have and that are justified and reasonable, and I think I've kind of been a bit sloppy, especially with those earlier videos. I'm trying to get better at it now, but even still, I guess I'm not necessarily presenting the counter-arguments, which I should probably do in these kinds of videos. So take that as a, you know, I'm going to try to improve in that regard from now on, and make sure that I'm not being as biased or as, emotional. I'd rather be as rational as possible and fair to all sides of the argument. Because there are other sides to the argument that I'm not really presenting when I say, you know, things like, I don't like artifacts, or RNG is bad, or stuff like this. So, yeah, I want to definitely give more light to the other options. And I think, yeah, those earlier videos really did a terrible job of that, so not a good thing to have them around anymore. I think they can simply be deleted. So I suppose I don't have much more to say other than, generally speaking, for other content creators, not necessarily myself, I think if they are making a return to Gwent, it makes a lot more sense to try to be welcoming to them and not be, you know, negative, toxic on forums, in their Twitch chat, whatever it might be. You know, people are going to make mistakes as you might see them, which may not be mistakes to them, may be mistakes to them, who knows. But either way, yeah, at the end of the day, they're just people. Treat them as such, and hopefully we can all have a very nice, thriving and positive community. I think if we're negative to content creators that want to return, that's just going to make them simply not want to engage with the community and make that return. Fortunately, a lot of people have been very supportive of me, even though, yeah, I never planned to just bail on Gwent completely. But there's been a lot of support, and I hope that continues. And yeah, so I suppose to sum up this video, I want to say I'm sorry for, you know, being overly overreactive, maybe overly emotional regarding criticism of Gwent in the past. I'm sorry for not making my intentions clearer regarding Artifact and Gwent. And yeah, I hopefully we can all be a little less toxic towards content creators, and hopefully people can see, you know, where I was coming from during that time. And hopefully, I'm just hoping that we can all drop it and move on together, play Gwent, enjoy the expansion, and, you know, hopefully experience some great things for, you know, within this community and within this game. With that being said, yeah, of course I will continue to play other games when I see fit. I still think that's a perfectly reasonable thing to do, but hopefully that clears up a lot of the, just negativity regarding myself and other content creators and Artifact and that whole shazam. Anyway, let me know if that's a satisfactory response in your opinion or whatever. Just tell me how you're feeling. Support, not support, I'll be happy to hear it. And with that being said, thanks a lot for watching, everybody. I'll see you next time.